important. It's a great skill. No one works, no one wants to work with someone that is negative and is stressed all the time. Then finally, Trevor said, ultimately, knowing your stuff, that's the main thing. Don't lie about things you may not be able to do. Honesty is the best policy. So, what's your take? What's your response to that? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's bang on, Trevor. There's authentic. You have to be authentic, you know, and before you can be authentic, you need to know who you are. You know, back to what we were talking about before. You know, that's definitely it.
I think you've got to be able to understand your ability in the workplace. Those who try to do more than their ability are easily caught out as part of that process, and that, in effect, gives an impression about that individual. If you can't do something, it's not seen as a total weakness. There's a view that sometimes you need to cry out for help, because you're working in a team environment, and that shouldn't be deemed as a weakness. I think sometimes when you have good teams, people come together and contribute together, and you get to the end goal in a much easier way as actually saying that I can do everything and not deliver nothing. So I think I do concur with that. The last point about knowing your strengths and weaknesses is a very powerful point.
Okay, and when do you have anything to add to?
I think definitely I'd concur with what view is the same. I do think there is something about understanding your motivation for that going for that role. Everybody needs to earn, you know, but if it's just about the pay, it's not going to sustain you. It's going to be very transparent. So as much as you may be chasing the pay packet at the end of it, try to go for a job which interests you, which excites you, which you want to apply yourself. Because, you know, life is finite. You want to be enjoying that. You spend a lot of time at work eventually, and particularly if you're trying to build a career, you know, make it a path that not only are you looking to succeed in, but you're looking to enjoy as well. Right. So understand your motivations, because they kind of quickly become apparent. Yes.
Thank you, guys. So, you know, before we went on a break, we were talking about the unique selling point, making ourselves employable. I believe social media can be a useful employability tool. Have you used this if you're looking for someone to recruit at all? So I'll go over to you first.
I take it from a personal stance. Social media is going to be the way forward when it comes to recruitment nowadays, especially LinkedIn. You talk to a number of agencies within the sector and outside various sectors. They use social media, and I repeat myself, LinkedIn, as a way of actually sourcing their candidates. If you're looking for a particular skill set, somebody who's got a particular experience within the sector, they go into social media and they go into LinkedIn, and that is where they're looking for their possible candidate. You cannot shy away from social media. People are looking at how you develop your career via social media. It's very important. It's very important how you build your profile, because that is the first impressions employers to some degree use to make a judgment call about a potential candidate. And even the higher you go, social media is used as a tool for executive search. I've been involved in those sorts of issues whereby we're looking for a particular candidate, we're going into places like LinkedIn, that we see we will be able to find that professional candidate. So what you cannot do is shy away. For those who are not on LinkedIn or one of those big social media business, I'm not talking about Facebook, I'm talking about something.
Why not Facebook?
Well, it depends on the roles you're going for. Actually, I think if you're going for very professional roles and very senior roles, if you haven't got a profile on LinkedIn, employers tend to ask you what is going on here. It's become the acceptable way of recruitment nowadays. If it's becoming the acceptable way of recruitment, I think people who want to go up to that middle level of management, senior level of management, have to build a profile so people actually have some sort of visibility of you.
Okay, thank you for that. So if you're saying that's the way forward, over to you, Femi. The question I want to pose is around CV. That's the traditional way. But if employers are already looking at social media to sort of source out their, so do you think, to source out their candidates, do you think there's still a place for CVs in today's employment world?
I always say to people that ask me questions about job searching and applying for work, I always say to them, there are jobs out there. There are loads of jobs out there, a lot of jobs out there. Problem is the way your job search has changed. And if you're looking for a job the way you used to look for a job, back in the days, Evening Standard on Thursday will list all the jobs and you go for them and you send your unfortunately, that time is over. If you look in the metro, you'll probably find 4 or 5 jobs. Employers, don't really want to focus on that anymore. The way to look for work right now is through networking. Who knows you, who you know, and who knows you. And when we're talking about networking, one of the quickest way to do the networking is through social media. Yeah, because you can easily get to you can form a circle on Google. You can go on LinkedIn. There's so many things you can do.
So is there room for a traditional CV? Should I put my CV in social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Your CV is still your marketing tool. It's still your executive summary, so to say. It's still your marketing tool. So you can absolutely. I mean, LinkedIn is all about putting your CV because if someone changes their job, I would know on LinkedIn. Oh my God, bro! Someone's just changed their job, and on LinkedIn it will even tell you how long someone has been in that job, so you understand that the person is loyal or longevity and stuff like that. And so you get a lot of information. So yeah, put your CV on.
I think you're right there for me. It's a lot more static. Just a CV, you send it out, it's out into the ether and it stays that way, where other mechanisms like LinkedIn, it changes very quickly. And I think you can use CV, but keep them, you have to depersonalise, declutter them quite a lot. People used to have these, they've only ever had 2 jobs, but they've got a 3-page CV. And that's not very convincing. So you have to keep it short, keep it precise, and make sure it's targeted as well. So anybody says one size fits all, that's never true. I've never seen anything, heard in one size does not fit all. It's the same with CVs. So you have to target it according to the role that you're going for.
Okay, thank you for that. Very nice. Now, still talking about social media, we said it's a very useful tool. We all agree with that. But I believe it can also work against one. Have you got any examples of wearing your recruitment hats now, whereby you think the social media has actually worked against this candidate if they hadn't?
What I would say to people is organisations have email, social media policies for a reason. They have them for a reason. So there is scrutiny there. They do know what's going on and they will form an opinion. They form an opinion before you come into the company because it's about protecting the company and safeguarding. It links to what we were talking about, which is branding. As much as individuals need to be aware of their own brand, and we are a brand, organisations have that as well. And they spend a lot of money to protect that brand. So they want to be careful about who they're attracting in, and that's why they check on social media. So you have to be careful. We're not saying don't enjoy yourself and don't have family photos, but just be careful. If you're going into particularly in the private sector where there is a heavier amount of scrutiny around social media and the use of Twitter and Facebook and all of that, they will take it into account. And if it's contra to brand, then it's likely it could have an impact on you. I think in the public sector, it's not as evident as that, and it's more.
I think, Femi, what do you have to say to that?
It's not as evident, but I think there is a lot of chat within the HR profession about social media and its use to actually review the candidates who are applying for roles. And I think Wendy's totally right. Most organisations want to protect their brand. Most organisations want to get recruitment right first time. Secondly, you want to make sure whoever's coming into your organisation, your team, is the right fit, basically. And the dynamics is quite important. And you will get people occasionally do look at Facebook and when they've made the appointment, and we're all human beings, and that happens, and you can't escape it. It's in front of us. It's a press of a button. So as Wendy said, you've got to be very cautious what you put on social media, because it could haunt you, if not 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, especially if you go up the ladder. So people must be wise to the fact that social media, as you say, has its advantages as well as its disadvantages.
It does. Femi, do you want to add to that? Or
that just reminds me of a story of a big, massive company. The CEO got sacked after 8 years of bringing the company up. On Facebook, it was found out on Facebook that he did not have the qualification to get the job in the first place.
CEO.
The CEO.
Amazing.
Yeah, poetic justice. But but you know, and unfortunately, social media has its own ugly side to it. And I completely agree with what Wendy said. Be careful where you put it, because you will be judged. Because we want to get it right. You will be judged based on what we see.
So basically, a key point that I would hold on to is use it for your own advantage. So get the right information and put it out there. Yeah? Well, thank you for that. Now we're going to continue talking about CV, because we touched on that the first part of the show. Now, what would make a good CV? Because now I want you to wear you're the experts, you're the employment experts. What are the sort of things you look for when you're shortlisting people?
For me, it's, as Wendy's indicated earlier, you've got to tailor your CV to the particular role. I think that's very fundamental. It's one size doesn't fit all. I totally disagree with that. Equally, when I look at CVs, I'm constantly looking at what has the individual added to their organisation. What have you achieved? I don't really want to know what you do, basically.
Oh, really?
I want to know what you've achieved as I really want to know what have you achieved within your 2 years, 3 years. That is what employers are looking for.
Really? Why wouldn't I list them? I've done this, I've done that.
I think the achievements come first. I think the achievements come first, and I'm not denigrating what you actually do within your everyday job. It's about what have I achieved within my organisation for 2 or 3 years or 5 years you've been there. That's what have I added value. A lot of organisations are looking at that, and we're looking at those transferable skills, because if you've been responsible for a major transformation, I will be looking at that skill if I'm looking at transforming my organisation. If you've made a significant savings within the organisation, I'm looking for that. That tells me a story about you. You've had that experience. Yes, you may be responsible for the whole finance department. Totally agree with that. But what is the added value? And you do find that a lot of organisations and recruitment agencies will tell you the same thing. What have you achieved? Note your experience, highlight your experience. It's really fundamentally important. Don't go overboard. I always say to people, make your CV very concise. It's your first 2 pages, or in some cases your first page, that actually tells a story about you, basically, because a lot of employers will probably come across 50, 60, I look at hundreds of CVs, and to be honest, it's about what stands out for me. And that first page is the story about you, basically.
One page, the first page.
The first page could be the story about you, because if you're seeing a lot of CVs, and let's say we're in a competitive world, people haven't got the time to go through 4 or 5 pages of a CV. And that's the honest truth. Yeah. That is the honest truth, because you're seeing CVs on an everyday basis, and you're looking for a particular skill set. So it's the first 2 pages to tell a very powerful story about you. I disagree if people say they look through CVs every day.
They don't.
They don't. That's the reality of the role. You don't. You're looking for a particular skill set, and you know what you're looking for. Make it concise. I always say to people, make it concise.
Okay. Or did you want to add something to that, Wendy?
Something just came to my mind.
Please go ahead.
When Femi said the first 2 pages count, and I think that that's so true. I'd probably even bring it a little bit closer. You know, people say when you have a face-to-face interview, probably the first the first 3 minutes count in terms of immediate impact. Right. I would say with CVs, it's probably the first top paragraph count.
Really?
Yeah, it's really critical. And a good bit of advice I had previously was I used to spend a lot of time putting my